Hey guys, Tony here, and what I want to do is I want to show you some of my recent vinyl finds, just a few, so that's not going to take a lot of time, so I figured I'd answer Joseph O'Donnell's thread questions quick, and I don't think that'll take long either. A lot of these questions are just kind of off the top of my head. Some of them I really don't have an answer for, but so I'll just kind of squash them together here and make one video. So I'll show you my records quick. I'm not going to comment too much on them because for time, but also some of them I haven't listened to much or at all. So I don't really want to rate things or really talk about things that I can't too well, having not really listened much. So anyway, I'll get started here. First one is Townes Van Zandt, Live at the Old Quarter. And this is a classic live album by him. 2 discs, reissued, 180 gram, just beautiful copy. If you're not familiar with Townes Van Zandt, he's a fantastic country-ish folk kind of writer. I guess people would consider him country. But, I mean, he's up there with Bob Dylan and Springsteen and them as far as I'm concerned, as far as writing songs. Very brilliant writer, I think, prolific as hell, and very good live record too. I think this is like a legendary live album. So there you go. This one here I picked up today. Haven't opened it yet, haven't listened to it yet, but I'm really looking forward to it. It's Modest Mouse, The Moon in Antarctica. I'm not that familiar with Modest Mouse, believe it or not. I do know a few of their songs, so and I'm really looking forward to it. I've heard so many great things about this band, so there you go. And this is the 10th anniversary vinyl edition, 180 gram, 2 LPs, so there you go. This one here was recommended again by Big Star 1000, another Can record, Future Days, and this is another really good album. Very funky, out there, good stuff though. I'm definitely going to be listening to this a lot more. I like this band a lot. Some of their stuff I definitely have to get a little more used to, but yeah, love this band really. So, brand new reissued copy of course, but there you go. This next one here was, I believe, was it Jason's Vinyl Obsession? Correct me if I'm wrong, but showed this, and I was definitely very curious about it. So I saw it in the record store the other day and just picked it up. But it's Viva Las Blues by Palace Music. And what he said was that it was kind of, had a depressing-ish kind of sound, kind of Neil Young sound. And I've listened to it one time, and I definitely love the sound of it. It's actually recorded by Steve Albini, who, if you don't know, was in Big Black. And he actually recorded In Utero and things like that. So usually I like his sound. It's very raw usually. But there you go. This one here arrived yesterday, and I listened to it this morning. And again, another band I'm not that familiar with, but I think I'm going to like a lot, judging by this album alone. And it's Woods at Echo Lake. This is a new album, released this year, I believe, and it's just a funky kind of more in the folky, I guess, acoustic kind of thing. But there's also electric. I mean, it's not folk. It's just funky, I guess. I don't know. I definitely like it. I gotta listen to it more. So I'll leave it at that. And this one here, the last one, I'm real excited about. I mentioned before the band Earth and how much I've really grown to like them a lot. And I bought my first Earth record maybe about a month ago. And Dan from Canada said, get Hex next. And I looked for it, and it was just impossible to find on vinyl. But I came across a copy on eBay, and I bid on it, and I won on it for fairly cheap. I mean, under $40, and it was still sealed. It arrived this morning, and I'm really excited about it. Can't wait to listen to it. It's more, I guess it's their more country influence kind of album. I guess there's like pedal steel on it, and there's banjo and things like that. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. It's, Earth Hex, or Printing in the Infernal Method. And again, this is 2005, out of print. There are copies available. I actually looked on eBay again this morning after it came, and there were none on there. On Discogs, there were maybe a handful on there, but for a lot more than this, I paid for this, especially sealed. So, yeah, I'm really happy about this. I can't wait to listen to it. And again, Southern Lord, just a beautiful pressing. I haven't opened it yet, but I could tell it's nice and heavy, and it's in great shape. No ding corners or nothing. So there you go. Okay, so those are my recent vinyl finds, and I'll answer Joseph's questions. What music were you brought up on as a kid? There wasn't a lot of music. There wasn't like collections, really. I mean, there was some. And I can't say I was raised on any kind of specific things. Just, there was always music around. Like, I've always heard music, like, in the car. In the car with my mother, it was a lot of oldies. She was also a big Elvis fan. She used to have a lot of Elvis records, but I don't remember her actually playing records too much. Mostly cassettes growing up. But in the car was always the oldie station. So I always knew a lot of those rock and roll, early rock and roll, and early Beatles and things like that. And just the Beatles in general. My father was a big Aerosmith fan coming up in the 70s. So I heard a lot of early Aerosmith, a lot of classic rock. It's funny with the Beatles. When I was about 12, and I was hanging out with a friend of mine who liked the Beatles, he put them on. I remember hanging out in his room, and to me the Beatles were the Mop Tops, I Want to Hold Your Hand, and that was it. I had no idea about what came after that. So he put on the Blue Album, the 67 to 70, and I knew all the songs really. I mean, they all sounded familiar. And he was telling me that this was the Beatles, and I was like, no way, you know? So that it just kind of clicked with me then. I mean, maybe just the familiarity with it, but in realizing that they had done more, and I had to make a copy of that tape for me, like right then, and that was it. I was a Beatles fan, and would be a huge fan for years after that. But so yeah, I guess growing up, I remember I loved Thriller by Michael Jackson when I was a kid. I remember jumping on my bed listening to Thriller, and I love those videos. A lot of MTV 80s stuff. MTV was on a lot. My parents were young when they had us, so any records for Christmas, I'll just say no and leave it at that. I bought a lot of records recently, so I need other things as well, so any records I want, I'll just buy, I guess. What is my most current desired record? Probably Pink Moon by Nick Drake. That's one I want. I've been looking around for it more recently, so. Have you ever met or created a friendship with an artist? No, I haven't. In Connecticut, growing up, where I live, there's a pretty good music scene, local music scene around. I have a lot of friends that are in bands and things like that. And I know knew some people too that were just more creative people and things like that I was friends with, but I can't say I ever really anybody known. There are definitely a lot of people I would love to be friends with and hang out with, but I think it'd just be idol worship and it just wouldn't work out well. Especially if they turn out to be a dick or something, it would just ruin it for me, so. What would you describe as a perfect example of why an MP3, a record sounds better than an MP3? For this, I'll just say, just about any record. I'll also say that Neil Young, to me, just needs to be on vinyl. Especially his early work, it's just, should be on vinyl. And when I got into vinyl, it was partially because he has albums that were never put on CD, especially at that time. Some have come out since. So, yeah, to me, Neil Young just sounds better on vinyl. Same thing with Dylan. And I can say the same thing with just about everybody. It just sounds better. Also, jazz. Jazz sounds so much better on vinyl. So yeah, tell a record collecting story. I would have to say, all right, I'll combine 6 and 7 here. Tell a record collecting story, and what record had you had the most excitement finding? Um, I'll have to go with Neil Young's El Dorado. Um, that was one record that I never thought I would find ever. It just seemed like impossible. Um, Plus, for the price it goes for, I mean, I paid about $150 for it, and at the time, I never thought I'd be paying that much for a record. But I remember, I know Dan, he knows this whole story. When it arrived in the mail, I still didn't believe that it was coming. And I figured there'd be something wrong, it wouldn't come, or it'd be damaged. But when it came, I left it in the box, I let it sit. I had homework to do, I had just things to do. So I made sure all my homework was done, and I had everything I had to do was done before I even opened the box and listened to it. But yeah, I mean, when I did, I opened it up and just kind of stared at it for a while, and I put it on my turntable and sat there and just listened to the whole thing. Just sat in front of my speakers and was just like blown away. Plus, I was just so happy that the condition of the record was just beautiful, and it's such a thin pressing. The cover and the record, it's so thin, but I wonder really how many of those things are out there. But anyway, so that's 6 and 7, I guess. Pick the fifth record from any category. As you know, my records aren't really organized like by categories. I mean, it's not alphabetical, it's by genre. I just picked one at random. And what I ended up with was Joe Jackson's Look Sharp. Great pop, 70s pop punk kind of sounding album. Is it punk? I would say it's punk, like the early Police might be considered punk. But it's a brilliant record. I mean, really, you might be more familiar with Is She Really Going Out With Him? And maybe One More Time, which was in a commercial recently. But Look Sharp's fantastic. Baby Stick Around. Sunday Papers. Throw It All Away. I mean, the whole record is brilliant. So, if you're not into Joe Jackson, I really recommend this record. He's done some funky things in his career, but this record I could definitely vouch for. So, there you go, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. Happy holidays, everybody, and thanks for watching, so take care.